Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to CityLAB's online Matchmaker with Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion in the Hamilton Fire Department. I'm Patrick Byrne, Project Manager for CityLAB. Our Matchmaker events are where we learn a bit more in depth about the challenges that have been submitted to us and work with our faculty partners to try to find good matches for faculty, students, and city staff at the City of Hamilton. So we have with us today Executive Officer Helen Klumpp and Chief David Cunliffe from the Hamilton Fire Department. Thanks for joining us both today. And we're really looking forward to hearing more about your challenge. It's a really timely one and an important one around how the fire department is looking at making the, in the words from your challenge, making sure that the fire department better reflects the diversity of the community and knowing that Hamilton is a very diverse community and trying to make sure that we have better diversity reflected in our services. I believe this is there's a recent survey from the City of Hamilton where services were rated, and I know that the fire department really came out on top of that, which is wonderful. I think a testament to your good work that you're already doing. So if we could learn a little bit more about you both. What I typically, people have sometimes inscrutable titles at the city, and I think people maybe have a sense of what the chief of fire department does. But if you could tell us, David, in your own words, what does that role look like for you, and a little bit about who you are.
Sure. Well, thank you, Patrick, and certainly it's a real privilege to be here today with Helen to be able to talk about the challenge we have. So interestingly enough, as the fire chief, it's a mixed bag, really, in terms of what I do. We run a $93 million organization here in the city of Hamilton. We have over 850 frontline staff who every day don the uniform with pride and serve the citizens in many ways, whether it's through frontline emergency response, whether it's through our fire prevention public education division, whether it's through our mechanical services division, our training division, or our dispatch communications division, all of which help us to ensure that the direction we get from council in terms of the level of service delivery, we're able to meet that. As fire chief, I'm legislated under the Fire Prevention Protection Act to be responsible for the delivery of fire protection services here in the city of Hamilton. And so one of the things that I'm tasked to do is to help inform and educate council, the decision makers of the city, in terms of what's required, and allow them to make educated decisions on that. And that means helping them to understand the risks. Really what we do is we're risk managers. We help the counselors to manage risk. So we constantly are updating a risk profile for the community. We do that with a gap analysis for the services we provide. We then provide recommendations to members of council on all aspects, not just in terms of the frontline delivery of service, but in terms of directions that we're going or things that are required based on the ever-changing needs of the city. And as we all know, this city is changing dramatically, every day. And so it does put up its challenges. I guess I would look at the fire chief position in, similar in a business sense, is that I'm the CEO. I get involved in a whole number of things, responsible certainly for the strategic direction that the department's going. And one of the ways that we did that was through last year, we brought a 10-year plan, and I had the pleasure of standing in front of mayor and council, presenting that on behalf of the folks, and certainly had some input into that plan in terms of where we're going over the next 10 years. Helping to cascade that vision down to frontline staff is another one of my functions. But on a day-to-day basis, I'm very much in tune and involved in all aspects. I have a great leadership team that do fantastic work, but it's important for the fire chief to have a clear understanding of what's going on. Certainly, that's the expectation when things happen. Council will be directly coming to me asking for some information, some answers on things. From a labor relations perspective, I'm the lead for labor relations. So when it comes to contracts, along with our HR labor relations division through the city. But in terms of day-to-day labor management issues, I'm the lead for all of our unions. So we have 2 unions that are directly involved in the firefighting operation side. And then we have the QP union with the city. Budget, financial, again, same thing. So again, really, if you understand the CEO component of it, we're no different than any other business. And there's a whole lot of different facets. The fire department is very much a business. We not in terms of the frontline operations, everybody knows, but we've got the whole HR component, we've got the financial component, we've got multiple business units within the fire department. As I said, our mechanical division, we run a fleet, and we maintain a fleet, as well as the fleet for the paramedic service, communications. So very much dispatch. Our fire prevention division, there's a lot of code enforcement, there's public education, there's legal issues. The other component is the emergency management piece for the city. I'm also responsible for the emergency management. So early on in the pandemic, when it was starting up, I'm in the operations center, and I was the operations chief for the city, helping to work with the other divisions to shut the city down initially. And I've backed out of that role and now just maintain my role as the ops chief for the fire department. So Patrick, it's really hard to describe. There's a whole lot of moving parts to this, but it's certainly something I enjoy, and certainly something that I know every morning I get up with a smile on my face, knowing that I'm coming to do what I love to do best, and that's make this department a little bit better each and every day, and to make sure that we're serving the residents of the city with a level of service that they absolutely deserve.
Wonderful, thank you. Yeah, it's great to hear that broader description, because it's not. I think folks have some sense of fighting fires, right? But there's that's a lot more nuance to that, particularly in your role with the managing the relationships with council and running what is essentially its own sort of complex organization with lots of different features and functions that serve important sort of safety pieces in general for the city. So thank you for your work, and thanks for that description of your role. Okay, now we'll go over to Helen, and you can tell us, Helen, what an executive officer does for the fire department.
Sure, thank you. Thanks for having us today. Really appreciate that. So the executive officer position, the chief established it. I've been here 2 years now. And as he mentioned, with the development of the 10-year plan, the chief had the vision of implementation and how that could be done within his existing leadership team. So I report directly to the chief and part of the senior leadership team here with, I'd say, a business focus on the support divisions and providing oversight and strategic input. And so the main role, I would say, is implementation of the 10-year plan. It's our roadmap for the next 10 years. It's a document that hasn't been done, I'd say, since amalgamation. So I think, safe to say we're all very proud of the document, and very much believe in it, and want to ensure that it's implemented, because there's a lot of great work that was done in there, and it does lead us in the future. So with that, I have oversight of the records management system within the department, dashboard, KPIs, the recruitment strategies for the department, and moving forward with that, which is where this kind of came into play. Communication strategy, the information technology strategy. There's a lot of focus in the 10-year plan on information technology as well. And so it's the business processes, reviews, continuous improvement. So just a broad range that affects the Hamilton Fire Department as a whole, but moves us forward in line with the 10-year plan.
Nice, thank you, Helen. I'm just curious, are there other folks in your position, or is it a unique role?
I'd say it's a unique role.
Yeah.
And like I said, I've been here for 2 years, so it's been evolving. And again, from the implementation of our action item and initiatives, I'd say, on a daily basis, we find things that, we're constantly reviewing and taking a look at so that we can just get better each day.
Nice. It sounds like an interesting piece to be supporting all those different areas and
It
helping move it forward strategically, which is really exciting.
Can I just ask a follow-up question briefly, if that's all right?
Sure. Yeah.
Helen, I'm wondering if your position are there comparable positions at other fire departments of areas that are similar size to Hamilton, or is this unique to Hamilton?
I'll let the chief expand on that, but from my understanding, there are some larger departments that do have similar positions and similar roles and similar focus for the fire department. But Chief, I don't know if you have any more specifics on that.
So a few of the larger departments, Toronto had somebody in this role for a period of time, and then it evolved into another role. I would, in terms of the Hamilton piece, I would draw the correlation to the Hamilton Police Service. And the police is the CAO for the police service, looks after very much similar in terms of the types of portfolios that Helen is dealing with the business side, business background, the process side, and the IT side. So that's the parallel that I would probably put out there to make it so that you could have a better understanding.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. So let's dive into the challenge. So maybe Helen, we could go back to you and you can pass off to David as appropriate. But we talked in a few months ago around some of the initial ideas, and it came forward with a really robust challenge. Maybe you can just walk us through what you've submitted through CityLAB.
Sure. Thank you. So this, our 10-year plan identified the diversity within the department, and we all recognized that there was a need to improve. And so one of our objectives within the 10-year plan was actually about having an equity, diversity, and inclusion lens to our recruitment and actually for our entire workforce. So the city is undergoing an employment equity survey right now. And so right now we're gathering the data. Citywide, and that is led by our Human Resources Department. And so we really recognize that we need to do better and we need to do things differently. So that is where this challenge came to be because since Council endorsed our plan within the past year, we're really starting to dig deeper into what the action items are. And so we found that this was a really good opportunity to involve CityLAB to help us through that because this is a journey for us. And so, whatever we can do, whatever inputs we can have, we are welcoming that and open to that, and because we really do want to move the department forward so that we are our workforce is reflective of the community that we serve. We want people to see themselves in our department, and not only that, we want to make sure that we're retaining people. When it's not about getting the number of applicants in. It's a matter of having a workforce and an environment that people want to gravitate to. So that includes retention, succession planning, everything in here. So we thought we'd put this forward and see what assistance we can get because we need to change, and we looking for as much involvement as we can.
Thank you. That's a great description. I'm curious. You mentioned the city's employment equity survey in general, which hasn't been made public yet. Is that right?
Actually, HR did report to GIC, our General Issues Committee, yesterday. It was a great presentation with some baseline data and plans for next steps. And so we are definitely in tandem with that because, you know, we need the data. We need to know where we're at so that in the future we can measure against that and see how we're how effective we're being through that. So we are, it's still in process, but there was some really good data presented yesterday and next steps, which I thought was a great improvement over the last year.
Good. And that'll be wonderful timing for, I'm sure students and faculty will be interested in having access to that data right off the get-go to sort of understand where, you know, what the different makeup of folks is currently. Is there sort of a sense, do you have a anecdotal sense of what the makeup currently is? My sense is that it's overwhelmingly white, right? Is that sort of the
Actually, it wasn't too bad. I will say that,
okay.
you know, from the woman perspective, because there's the 4 categories, right? That the focus is on. It's the women, the racialized minorities, the disabilities, and the Aboriginal Indigenous. So there's still work to do, but the piece with that is they're aggregate totals. So that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the Hamilton Fire Department is reflective of those totals either. We have to drill down on that. So on the surface, you know, and without knowing a lot of the details behind it, still work to do. And, you know, the city has established an EDI committee as well. So there's going to be a lot of work going on with that. So again, we want to be in tandem with that, but a lot of that information will inform how we go forward as well.
Nice, wonderful. You had mentioned to me earlier around like sort of different efforts to engage different groups that weren't represented very well from the fire department, and I think you used the example before of recruitment efforts for women. And maybe you could or David could tell us more about those, sort of some of those efforts and how you think they've been successful or might inform some of these new efforts.
So I'm happy to speak to that. So 6 years ago, we started to work. Firefighter Kirpan came to me and said that she was very much interested in starting to focus some recruitment efforts towards young women and to start to encourage young women to take a look at the opportunity of working in the fire service. Pike is an absolute champion, not only within the Hamilton Fire Department, but across this province. She's now the president of the women's firefighter group throughout the province. Pike, along with a number of the women that work for the fire department, got together and started to put together a program for young women, 16 to 20 years of age, where they come in on a weekend and they have an opportunity over 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, to hear about careers in the fire service. So it's not just frontline suppression, but it's also other careers in the other divisions that we have. This combined with the Fire Service Women of Ontario group, which Pike is the president, as I mentioned, they brought in folks to help support. And over the 6-year period, unfortunately, 2020, we did have to postpone because of COVID. But in the 5 years that we've actually done it, we've had over 95 participants. In fact, most years, there's a limit to the number of folks that we can have because they actually do hands-on. So we actually have them don firefighting gear and have an opportunity to hands-on go into fire scenarios, fire situations, and do the things, climbing aerial ladders and things of that nature. But what it does, it's not just about introducing them to the careers, it's about helping them to realize that, you know what, they can do anything that they put their minds to. And it's also about having them get an opportunity to speak with some folks who over the years have become mentors for many of these young women. It's an amazing process. I tend to go on the Friday when the young women are first coming into the facility. And then I go in again on the Saturday to have a look, and I go again on the Sunday when we have a mini graduation for them. And it's just amazing because you can see the trepidation in their eyes when they come in on the Friday, and you can see as they're working through it, you can see the self-confidence building and the teamwork building. And you can see by the end, I think the biggest highlight for me was one year when one of the young women after the graduation was over, and I remember her specifically, she was a very timid young woman that, you know, kind of stood to herself in the beginning. And after graduation, she brought her family in, because we always have friends and family there to see this. And she was so excited. She was explaining to them how breathing apparatus worked and showed them how she did search patterns and things. And just to watch the transition of her from a Friday morning to a Sunday was absolutely amazing. And you could see the self-confidence, and you could see that these are things, skills and traits that she would be able to utilize just in her everyday life. And that's what this is about. It's helping young women to gain the confidence to know that they can do whatever they need. So we have seen this camp has taken off. We certainly are going to continue to do that, We've also seen the increase in the number of women within the fire service here in Hamilton. Currently, of our 850 workforce, 68 are women, of which we've got 40 now active firefighters, both in our full-time and our volunteer division. And I also want to say, just because I think it's important, and Helen is really a great example of this, is we have 5 people now in our leadership, 5 women on our leadership team. So it's almost 50% of my leadership team are women in various positions. Helen is the executive officer. I also have an assistant deputy, and I have a number of managers that are there, and they're very much involved in the running and the operation, and it's extremely important for us. So we're really focused. And just, if I could for a minute, this whole diversity and equity piece is extremely important to me personally. I'm a father of two girls, and when I brought them up, I always told them they can do anything they want, and I'm very proud that they have, and not to let the barriers of what has happened in the past in terms of, you know, specific jobs and functions that, you know, people had said be the thing that you know, precludes you from doing what you want to do. At the end of the day, as the chief, and I think it's really important that I am committed to this. I think it's you can see that in terms of where we're going with our plan, and certainly Helen is a champion for this for me. It's extremely important. I mean, one of the things that we have is the trust and confidence of the people, and you start off, Patrick, by talking about the survey the city did, and that's what that speaks to. It's the trust and confidence that our residents have in us. And that's certainly something that, you know, I don't take for granted, and I don't take lightly. But what's more important is this, as the face of the city changes from a diversity perspective, it's extremely important that we have a reflective look as a department, because we are the frontline people, and we need to maintain that trust and confidence. And if the people from the various communities don't see themselves in our department, and they don't see the people that are coming to help them reflective of that, that's going to make our job that much more difficult. So it's really important that we start to mirror that look, and we express to some way, and that's part of the challenge is, you know, how do we break down some of these existing barriers that maybe some of the communities have in terms of their belief that they can become successful working for the Hamilton Fire Department or in the fire service. And we really need to do this, because it's not just a Hamilton problem, it's really a North American problem in terms of this. The fire service has been a traditional male dominant environment, and certainly traditionally white dominant area. And certainly that's not what it should be, nor do I want it to be. So, you know, we need to really focus on this. And I think that's why we're doing it. And we need to do it in partnership with the city, as you heard that Helen has spoken to. But we need to do it, and we certainly, and I'll just put my plug in, we need help. We need help from folks that are very interested in moving the needle here. It's not one that we're going to do quickly, but it's certainly one that we need to start doing. I think we have been doing some of it. We also had a youth camp that we're going to run this year because one of the things we saw the success with the female firefighters and training camp. We wanted to run a camp for all youth from various communities. We had a number of staff. That's the other thing. We're getting some great cooperation and participation from some of our frontline staff to help us to start to move this along. And we had developed another camp that we were going to try and put forward this year, a little different than Camp Fit, but at least get people interested in the career and help and maybe speak to some of the specifics in terms of the existing barriers. But again, COVID put that on hold for us, but that's certainly something that we're looking to bring back as soon as we can in terms of we can have that interaction. But we're prepared to from putting the tools and the programs in place. I think we all need to have an open mind, and no idea is one that we won't take a look at and evaluate. So I just want to make sure people understand that we're very serious. I'm very serious about this, and this is one of those things that it's a must do for us.
Thank you, David. It's impactful to hear that, and I think you insisting on joining us today speaks to your commitment to making those changes. And as you said, it's an interesting thing that I think folks in a variety of institutions, post-secondary education included, city governments included, are reckoning with in new ways today, and trying to figure out how do we get more voices and more diversity at the table, so that that trust and confidence is included, and so that we have better outcomes for the community and people seeing themselves represented. So you described that really nicely, and I think it's I'm sensing from you both too. There's sort of an openness. You know exactly what you want in terms of end goals, but there's an openness for approaches, and there's a desire to be doing it in a public and open way that is that's reflective of the community as well, and they get some new voice at the table, and that's I think where CityLAB comes in. So I just want to, I know there's probably lots of questions from our folks on the call too, so I want to move along to the next sort of piece, and then we'll close off the formal section. Maybe Helen, you could tell us a little bit more about, we talked a little bit about some of the different deliverables that you guys had brainstormed in terms of potential ways forward for this, and the CityLAB folks' involvement in particular. Could you tell us what, and knowing that this isn't prescriptive necessarily, but some of the ideas that you had in terms of what opportunities might be available for CityLAB students and faculty?
Absolutely. So there's a few pieces. Again, it's from the beginning, right? So how are we getting our message out there? How are we reaching communities, the different communities? Right now, we're very limited in how we advertise for our recruitment process. So, is there a better strategic approach to that? Is there ways that we can target specific communities? And if so, how can we do that? Right now, we're only relying on the city website for postings and social media, but recognizing that that's not going to reach everybody. We do get a lot of applicants, and so it's also understanding who are those applicants, and how can we attract a richer applicant pool that we can pull from. Hamilton Fire right now, from a qualifications perspective, the chief has made a conscious decision to not require pre-service qualifications. The job description is, grade 12 education, and so the intent was to allow anybody that wants to apply and go through the process. So it's, are we reaching the right areas, and are we getting the applicants? So that's one piece. But we don't know what barriers may exist in that as well. So right now, again, are people hearing about it? Is the process, is there, inherent biases in the process? So we need to take a look at that too, again, because you know, we want to change it. So, you know, we can't be doing the same old, because we're just going to get the same old. So, you know, is there any barriers that are inhibiting people from even getting to that stage, or even throughout the process? You know, there is testing, and you know, there is monetary outlay that's required. Is that a barrier? We don't know. So it's looking from the whole gamut, from the, you know, getting the word out there, but also having the applicants come in. And then, so what else can we do and do better as well throughout the whole process? And then again, how can we, you know, the survey results were fantastic. And so how can we draw the applicants? You know, how can we have people understand that this is a great place to work? It is. And, you know, we're very highly regarded. I have the pleasure and the honor to be involved in the recruitment processes for firefighters for the last 2 classes. And, you know, the applicants are the sense of pride and willing to serve the community, and you know, hearing from others within the department what a great place to work this is. Like, you know, so how can we relay our reputation to the community to draw in people, because and have them want to come here and gravitate towards us, because, you know, it's a great place to be. And you know, and the other piece though too is you know, it's not just firefighter positions. We have a gambit of all different positions throughout the entire department. So, you know, how can we attract across the board too? So there's, you know, a lot of opportunities, I think, and it's just a matter of, you know, going through, and like you say, you know, the chief said, you know, we're asking for help and new ways of doing it too. So the other piece I want to add too is it was interesting about your question about the women too. The Canadian Association of Fire Chiefs has just released a report too, so titled "A Fire Service for All." So it's this is not unique to Hamilton, and I think, Patrick, you had mentioned earlier too, is that, you know, it's time, and so there's going to be a lot of information, resources, supports, the data from the city that I think will all, it's nicely aligned now in order for us to take a look at everything and move forward.
Excellent. Thank you, Helen. And I really like, you know, I think it's really interesting just to note the, you know, you're not just looking to replicate things you've done in the past in order to reach a quota. You're looking at the system, and you're looking at how, you know, what barriers might exist, and open to feedback and ideas on how those things can be tackled, and what directions can be taken, which is, I think, really exciting for the institution, and I think will be an exciting, will provide some exciting opportunities as well for students and faculty who may want to get involved. So thank you. So I'm gonna wrap up our sort of formal portion and thank our viewers who are watching this recorded for joining us today. And a reminder that you can watch all of our other challenges that are available on our website, citylabhamilton.com/challenges, and you can see all of our other work on our website as well. Thank you for joining us today, and have a good day.